SofaBaton just sent me their new X1S universal remote, and it does some things that their U2 universal remote just can't do. It also kind of misses the mark in a few areas. Now, one of the most major differences between this and the SofaBaton U2 is going to be the hub. And before you add any devices or do anything with this, you're going to have to set up the hub. So let's go ahead and do that. The very first thing you're going to do is hit the blue button where it says Set Up New Hub. It's going to tell you to plug in the hub to a power source. You're going to do that. And then once you've done it, you're going to hit the blue button that says Next. Then it's going to tell you to press and hold this button on the back for 3 seconds until that blue light on the front of it blinks, indicating that the hub is in the pairing state. Once you've done that, you're going to hit Next again. And unless you've got more than one of these, this should be the only thing that appears, so you're going to click on that button. And of course, you're going to allow it to access your Wi-Fi, and once you do, you should get a screen that looks something like this once it's done. And you'll hit this blue button that says done. And at this point, of course, if there are any updates or upgrades, it will ask you to accept them. Go ahead and hit upgrade at this time and allow that process to happen. You're just going to want to make sure that you leave the power on during this process, and it'll tell you when it's 100% done. And what does that hub do for you that this remote doesn't? Well, it gives you a little more option as far as line of sight. It gives you a much better range. You don't have to aim the remote because the remote is communicating to the hub and the hub is communicating to the devices. And by utilizing those IR extenders, you can now get those behind closed cabinet doors to equipment that may be hidden so that you don't have to have line of sight at all. Another area where this remote shines was hooking up devices. I'm not going to walk you through how to hook up devices because it's very self-explanatory. Once you determine what device you have, whether it be infrared, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, or radio frequency, just click the button and it's going to walk you through the same way I just walked you through installing the hub. And because of the hub and the ability to hook up RF devices, using this in a theater really is, to me, the optimal use of this remote. And if you have a home theater, then this is an area where this remote will really shine, and it's definitely one that you want to consider, with the ability to use voice control with Google Assistant or Alexa, the addition of RF, the API integration. It really does stand out in a lot of areas. However, there are some limitations, and I found some things that I just didn't like about the remote as well. You know, maybe it's just me, but I want a power button. I pick this up and I find myself looking for an external power button, and it's just not there. You have to scroll with the wheel and hit the device. I know they were trying to go for a simplistic look on here, putting most of these buttons into the scroll function, but the problem is that now you have to scroll through them all to find it and then hit it. And I honestly think that a lot of that stuff is just easier if you just have the dedicated button on the outside of the remote and don't have to scroll through and hit it. So I like the feel of the U2 better, and I like the design of the way that it's laid out better. I was able to easily connect our Blu-ray player to the X1S. Because my audio equipment is in here, the receiver that controls the home theater, the speakers, everything, the Blu-ray player, it's behind a wall. And unfortunately, even the X1S does not go through walls. You have to have those IR extenders wherever you need your extra range. And unfortunately, they don't go through doors or around walls. So unless I was to somehow run a wire into this room and be able to connect that back to the hub, it's just not going to work in my situation. So while this remote shines where you might have an audio cabinet with audio equipment behind closed doors, when your audio equipment is in an entirely different room, like mine is, then maybe it's not going to be for you, because for me, it just doesn't solve anything because the room that I have my audio equipment in is too far away from where the hub has to be placed. And one more limitation that I found is, well, it does support some RF devices. It doesn't support all RF devices. I was really hoping to get rid of this remote control that we have for our adjustable bed. It's being held together by a rubber band, and I tried, but it's incapable of learning this remote. I was able to easily connect my ceiling fan, which is something that the U2 could not do because it's an RF device. Unfortunately, this remote and the Roku remote are the only remotes in this area. And there are at least two more that I use in this area, but unfortunately, they're in a closet behind walls. And even with the IR extenders attached to the hub, I can't reach them. It's not really worth it to me to have this wire coming down here just to connect one more remote. So even though I couldn't exactly make it work for my scenario, that doesn't really mean that the remote is not good for your scenario. In fact, in most cases, for people that have audio equipment within an audio cabinet, maybe closed doors or a theater room, everything's contained in one room and it's not separate in a separate closet like mine is, or out of the distance where you can reach those IR extenders. For most people, this is going to be a really good option for a universal remote and probably one you should consider.